And hello, all of my fellow nerds out there. It's Oracle Nerd Richie, and welcome back to Our Life Beginning in All Ways. In last episode we finished off with the family dinner and road trip memories, and now we can't move on to the Derek memories because they're DLC. So we're gonna be ending this step, and don't worry, guys. I will think about getting the DLC at some point later on, and we'll probably go through all the DLC memories because they all seem really interesting. Anyways, let's go ahead and we're gonna be starting this episode by ending the summer. Are you sure? There was no denying it today. Today was the very last day of summer. Tomorrow you were heading to class. I'd say it'd probably be a bummer. Summer had been so much fun. When you thought about going back to school, it was with a sense of loss. Soon you wouldn't be able to choose how your days were spent without the school bell telling you where to be and when. It was with a heavy heart that you chose your outfit for the final day of freedom. Life was going to be different. You had come to think of the summer vacation as the norm, but school sucked up the majority of the year, whereas the summer vacation was just a respite in the middle. So rather than it being different, it was kind of a return to normal? What did your normal life really mean? You consider now how fondly your moms talked about their summer vacations as kids. You dimly recognized that one year the pattern of school and summer itself would be over for good. It was hard to imagine. You gotten distracted. One arm still out of his sleeve. You pulled it through and out of your mind, and put your mind back to the present. The season had brought about plenty of changes on its own, like Kyra's visit, though that too was coming to an end today. You were happy you finally got a chance to know her. You became extremely fond of her. Didn't really like her. Mine wasn't made up how you felt about her. You don't care one way or the other. You're happy you finally gotten a chance to know her. I think that's a good one. She was interesting to be around. You liked how easy it was to talk to her. You finished dressing, which was good. Cove would be there at any moment. You'd agreed to see his mom off together. Officially, the plan that he would come over to bring you round to his house when she was already set off, but you both knew that you'd be hanging out for at least a little while beforehand. Kara's visit had troubled Cove when it first happened. It had been a sudden change thanks to Mr. Holden's infamous tendency to surprise people. But once he was able to adjust, he'd been in pretty good spirits with her around. It was a relief for everyone. You turned to your desk where the box containing your accessories resided. A thought struck to you like a bolt and your eyes bored into the box. Should you wear an anklet for Cove's visit today? You had some nice ones that you hadn't used in a while. Ooh. You decided to wear several? You didn't wear one? Well, let's just wear one. Oh, right, because he said that during the road trip memory, right? Your heart pounded as you slipped on the hoop through the clasp and fastened it in place. Would Cove spot it? Your face grew hot as you imagined how he might react. The next thought that crossed your mind was, it would only be polite to get the door for Cove. You went downstairs to wait. You couldn't wait to see Cove, so you went downstairs to meet when he arrived. Cove knew your house well enough. You could lounge in your room to wait for him. I guess we probably go downstairs to wait. You strolled down the stairs. Someone else might have been able to answer it, but he was your guest. It was only a few minutes later when the doorbell rang. As you'd chosen to stand beside it to wait for Cove, there was no delay in pulling it open. Cove was there, just as you expected. Seeing you, he flashed you a bright grin.
Hey.
Hi, Richie. Hey, Cove. Come on in. Once he'd step inside, you beckoned for him to follow you upstairs. Back in your room, you sat down on your bed and waited for Cove to settle in as you knew he would. With other guests, you might have offered him a seat, but you and Cove were long past those tentative stages of friendship. Your room was as familiar to him as his own. You watched as Cove sat down in your desk chair, his preferred spot. He rolled it closer to the bed to make it easier to chat, tweaking the angle that he was facing so he was facing you fully. Once happy with the position, he leaned in towards you, hands held in his lap. His actions weren't the ones of someone who planned on moving from his spot anytime soon, even though you had an appointment to keep together that day. When is your mom leaving?
Don't worry about it.
We've got some time. She's still got to shower and stuff before she goes. She didn't want me to just keep hanging around while she was doing that. He lifted his head, his gaze drifting out through the window, and chuckled. I can't believe she's already leaving. Just when I'm getting used to her being there every day. He leaned back in the chair, a wry smile tickling his cheeks. Time's going by so fast. She'll be back. You nodded. Yeah. Time's going by so fast. He cocked his head thoughtfully before shrugging. He ran a hand through his hair before shaking his head, as if shaking off the topic like a dog whipping off water following a dip in the sea. Cove looked back to you, lips parted as if he was about to speak, but instead his eyes widened and his mouth closed into a tiny frown. Something had caught his attention. Something wrapped around where the end of your leg met your foot. He noticed. He cast his eyes back up to your face, then down to your ankles, and back to your face. He repeated this process once, twice more, as if struggling to hold the two items in tandem. Maybe he was weighing up whether this could be a coincidence or not. Or maybe he was just too shy to verbalize his thoughts, or still trying to find the words, and this was the most he could manage. The attention made you feel... Honestly, it's kind of amusing me, I'm not gonna lie. This is kind of funny. You know what, let's just go with amused. It was not hard to laugh at Cove's scrambled repose. You stifled your laughter with a hand clasped firmly around your mouth. Even so, you could feel the way the smile had lifted your face. On his next glance back to your face, Cove saw your expression shifted. You watched as his bewilderment eroded into mortification as he realized he had been caught staring. He quickly spun in the chair and to face the wall instead, allowing you to glimpse the flush that had spread all the way to his ear. He twisted in his seat, wringing his hands and determinedly avoiding looking at your direction again. It seemed that he decided against saying anything at all. Sorry, what's the problem, Cove? You stay quiet yourself. Does it look good? Cove mumbled something unintelligible, but as he slumped lower, with how he was hunched over, the quiet words had no chance of reaching you. You weren't going to get anything out of him in this state. You waited for him to come around before speaking again. Finally, he piped up very softly. Did you do it because of the way I said before? I mean, you know. The last few words were whispered as though they were a precious secret. The anklet bracelet? I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe? His eyes squeezed shut. You had no idea if the answer made him feel better or more nervous. You eventually looked down at his lap. His fingers were flexing and curled in awkward dance nerves. His chest rose as he breathed deep. Well, it looks good on you. Your heart skittered in your chest like a stone skipping across water. One big leap from an unexpected compliment, followed by a series of shorter ones as you absorbed the words. You beamed at him. He was looking at you again at last and returned the smile shyly. This really couldn't have worked out better, you thought. There was nothing else he could add after that. The conversation lasted into another comfortable lull. Cove swung his feet underneath the seat of the chair, eyes resting on you. Having him over was so nice. No matter how you spent the time, you always felt better for being in his company. You couldn't help but adore him, both as a friend and in a way that plucked at your heart, a vague yearning for more. Maybe it was because summer was almost over that your feelings were rushing in on you now, like high tide at the end of a long day. Summer was such a meaningful time for the two of you. Not only because it was when you first met, but because it was a season that you could spend almost entirely as you pleased, and you both chose to spend it together. You didn't know completely how you felt. You wanted to let Cove know how much you liked him. You were too scared to let him know. You weren't ready to admit it to Cove now. Oh, okay. So, I mean, this part of the game takes place at the end of the second summer. So, I actually don't know. Like, do we tell him? Do we not tell him? You know what? I feel like our character should tell him. Why not? Now was the time. You couldn't go another day without expressing these feelings you held. Spoke words of affection, confessed by kissing him. You asked if you could kiss. But, bruh, you can't just give me this option and not think I'm gonna pick it. Come on. Just to see his reaction, I'm gonna save it, but I kind of want to speak words of affection. I think that's probably the better option here, because just kissing the person you like all of a sudden, it doesn't really, I don't know. Sometimes it bodes well, sometimes it doesn't. It's just odd. So honestly, words of affection would probably be better. It was best to be direct with Cove. You didn't want to leave room for ambiguity and misunderstanding at such an important moment. Right from the original summer when you met, Cove had always been special to you in that way, that no one else ever had. You wanted to make that clear. You looked directly at him. Cove? He had already been watching you, but he lifted his head attentively at your call. Your cheeks were as hot as if you were standing in the midday sun. Cove raised an eyebrow. He's looking a bit like Dwayne Johnson over here. Your heart raced. The sound rang in your ears, shutting out everything else. Oh, okay, so we have 5 options of how to do this. It's just too difficult to get words out no matter how much you wanted to. You're pretty and wonderful and the best person I know. I like you so much. I have a crush on you. I like you, Cove. I really, really like you. I know you're crushing on me and I feel the same about you. I honestly don't know. Is this what it... Oh, wait. Is this what it feels like to be a writer? Wait a second. I write my own stories. I honestly don't know. Though being nervous and direct about it is kind of odd. You know what? Second one. I think second one's the best one. Cove froze in his seat, the only motion coming from his widening eyes. With a jolt, you realized that was literally the only thing he was doing. He hadn't taken a single breath since you uttered the words. Cove, you need to breathe. Cove might have invited fish with their gills, but he wasn't a fish. he was a boy on land and he needed air to live. You really hoped he would remember this soon before you needed to call your moms in and explain the situation. Cove still had no response. You were starting to clamber off the bed towards him, and finally he sucked in a deep breath. Okay. His voice cracked on the second syllable. The word at odds with his nervous appearance. His eyes were darting around, unsure where to place them.
I don't know.
I don't know what to do now. Tell me how you feel. I don't know either. You don't have to do anything. You laughed, you shrugged. Third option. I really want to know. Cove tensed, his breathing short and quick. His hands were gripping his knees tightly, like a bird's claws around a branch in the gale, desperately clinging onto safety and stability. Yeah, thank you for that before. You couldn't help but crack a slight smile at sudden formalness. You could tell it was ridiculous.
Sorry.
Sorry for being weird. It's just, I kind of thought or hoped that sometime something like this might happen, with us talking about liking each other. You did? You were thinking about it before? He nodded, ever so slightly. Your face felt a little hotter after that. Cove brightened a little at your positive reaction, and his explanation continued. I could sort of picture how it might go. What it'd be like with you and me. But just the first part, I couldn't ever imagine anything that come after this. Now that it's actually happened, we're there. He took a deep breath, stuttering on the exhale. This makes things different. It's hard on me. Should we find a crystal ball for answers? I pretty much imagined you'd react like this. Sorry. I knew it was gonna happen and wanted to say it anyway. He chuckled in disbelief at the situation. That was all he could do. His breathing started to level out once again, slowing it to a usual steady rhythm. He closed his eyes, drawing himself up as he inhaled deeply. Each word he spoke next was delicate. Richie, I like you too. A lot. Probably way too much. Aw, isn't that just adorable? He ducked his head bashfully and opened an eye, peeking at you through the hair that had fallen over his face like a veil. He managed a smile.
Thanks for waiting for me.
That's adorable. Can I just say the voice acting in this game is absolutely adorable? It's just the cutest thing in this entire series and I love it. His eyes sparkled just looking at you. His affection transparently clear. He could never hide what he was feeling, and you couldn't be more grateful for that today. Come on, come on. It'd be a crime not to, right? It'd be a crime not to. You got up rapidly, closing the short distance between you and Cove, and steadying yourself with a hand on each of his shoulders. Eee! Wait, is that my face on the right? The chair rolled a couple of inches from your sudden movement. Cove pinned to its back, and you pressed your lips to his parted ones before he could speak. Your stomach somersaulted. Your mind was abuzz with nerves, excitement, disbelief, and joy, all entangled so thoroughly that you couldn't distinguish one emotion from the next. In that moment, it felt warm, it felt nice, and it felt right. You pulled away only a second or two later. Cove had been stunned into continued silence, his face frozen in the same expression as as he had when you first leaned in. You took a step back, giving him space to breathe. Cove stood up. His back was rigid, spine as straight as a surfboard, and his face was red as a sunburn. Oh, my boy! Cove plastered a hand over his mouth. His eyes shut tight. His back then became bowed, shrinking him down. Oh my god, look at my boy! He's so happy! Cove plastered a hand over his mouth. His eyes shut tight. He began to shrink lower. You could only just make out a few words he had managed to summon.
Oh my god!
Oh my god, the voice acting! Guys, you hear the voice acting? It's adorable! Wait, maybe I should turn it up. Hold on. My god, why is... How high can the voice... This is as high as... Okay, this is as high as the voice can go. Oh my god. Okay, here we go. So now I can hear it. I can't believe we actually... His eyes flew wide open, but he didn't look your way, let alone meet your gaze. that looks like it could be a Discord emo, I won't lie.
Oh my god.
We kissed. You were full of nerves. His reaction was really cute. You thought his fluster was fun. Why does this game know me? Of course I thought the fluster was funny. You worried that he was so frantic. You thought his fluster was funny. I honestly think it's funny. Come on. He wouldn't appreciate your laughter now of all times if he heard it. You pressed your fist to your mouth and tried to stifle it. Cove only slammed his eyes closed once again. Was it bad? It was nice, wasn't it? Cove, it's okay. Did I do something wrong? Did you like it? He was still holding his hand to his face, but in an attempt to answer, he emitted a muffled whimper. With that obviously not working, he uncovered his face at last, bringing the hand to lay against his chest, and looked at you. Yeah. He opened his mouth, poised to speak, and pursed his lips as words failed him. On his third or fourth attempt, you heard what he had to say. I did like it. I'm glad that we, you know. He swallowed, seemingly not able to speak the actual word. That we kissed? Cove ducked his head but nodded. You got to the impression that he was grateful that you'd finished the thought, but your direct words had pierced his Achilles heel. You grinned, thrilled that the experience had been a welcome one. The smile on Cove's face was real but wary, not unlike the one he wore after a long study session. Like when he'd mastered something that previously evaded him. The work had been hard, but the reward had been worth it. Cove then pressed a hand to his creased forehead.
Oh my god.
Does this mean I'm your boyfriend or something now? Should we tell our parents? I don't know what mom or dad would do. There was a lot of concerns in there. You honed on the simplest. There was no way your moms could let you have a boyfriend, even though that were juxtaposed with Cove's name made your heart race. I mean, I'm pretty sure our characters' moms would agree with it, right? I mean, those two are dating, so who's to say the main character in Cove can't, huh? My parents won't let me have a boyfriend or even a something. It doesn't matter though, we like each other and that's what's important. You didn't know what to say. I think we just when in doubt, middle it out. Your moms had good reasons for their rules, and you didn't mind waiting, not for Cove. Cove lifted his hand from his chest and reached towards you, halting halfway, then slowly, cautiously hooked his fingers around yours, his palm pressed against the back of your hand. You held his hand back. You rotated your hand so that you were palm to palm with Cove, your thumbs crossing one another. we can get it to work. We always figure things out sooner or later. You're right. No matter what, it's okay in the end. When it's the two of us, when it's the two of us. Your forthright statement made Cove gasp, but the smile that followed and his tighter grip on your hand told you that he appreciated it. Richie, Cove! The sudden call from downstairs caught you both unaware. You'd nearly forgotten the world outside your room. From the guilty look on his face, Cove had done the same. Just had a call. Cove's mom is ready to go. If you're quick, she might keep the band-aided motherly smothering to a minimum. You doubted that, but it was nice that Mom and Mrs. Pierce had their strange sense of humor in common. Your eyes met Cove's. Wordlessly, you headed downstairs together. Each step on the way was painfully slow, like he was trying to delay the inevitable. His whole body tensed, leaving the house, and Cove froze altogether before you could both cross the street.
Oh.
The door's open. Dad must be taking her stuff out. He swallowed hard. She's really gonna leave. This isn't the last time you'll ever see her. Rest her hand on his arm. Why not? You felt a small shiver ripple through his body as the warmth from your hand sank in. Cove looked at you as if he was hoping you had a solution for how he was feeling, and all you could do was give him his arm a squeeze for support. At that, some of the conflict warring on his face eased a bit. Together you went across the street and inside his house, finding his parents in the living room, surrounded by his mom's packed things. Hey kids! Good timing, I just called the taxi.
Hi.
And hi Richie, so glad I get to see you today. It was fabulous getting to know you this summer. I finally got to put on a face I finally got to put a face to the name I've heard so many times. She winked, and Cove pouted on cue over the teasing. I'm really happy I got to meet you too. I hope you had a good time visiting. I really did, thank you. Nodding, Kyra turned her attention back to her boys. She patted Cliff on the arm with a warm smile, and then she enveloped Cove in a crushing hug. Initially, Cove squirmed to break free from his mother's grip, but his mom was unfazed and kept him locked in place. Heartbeats later, he gave in and hugged her back tightly.
I'm so glad.
I'm so happy this trip was a success. Cliff looked like he was bursting with pride. And then Cove stiffened. Kyra loosened her hold on him to study his face, concerned. She spoke her next words in a whisper that had been meant for just her son.
What do you think?
Do you want to unshelve it? Raising an eyebrow, Cliff watched them carefully. His smile began to falter.
What's wrong?
Cove sighed and his gaze flickered over to you for a moment, and then just as quick back to his parents.
It's okay.
It's alright.
Really?
Are you sure? I don't want to do it now. I can tell Dad later. Nervously, you watched the exchange with the growing suspicion that Cove didn't want to have that conversation while you were there. You wondered if you should offer to leave, then Kyra gave Cove a pat on the head.
Alright.
You can always call me if you want me to be a part of the conversation, okay? I'll call. Thanks, Mom. Cliff still looked baffled about what Kyra and Cove were referring to, but you watched as his shoulders slowly relaxed. You figured that he decided to wait for Cove to be ready to talk to him. And with Cliff's silence, things seemed to be settled for now. After that, it wasn't long before the taxi arrived, rolling up in front of the house and in clear view of the open door. Kyra stood up, smiling sadly. Well, that's my ride. Yeah. The matching reply got a chuckle out of Kyra as you all filed out of the house. Father and son went to Kyra with Kyra's bags in hand. Once outside, you spotted your family waiting by the street, and And to your surprise, Derek was also with them. He said uncomfortably as he waved as soon as you noticed him.
What's up?
Hey Richie. Hi Cove. When did you get here? My dad dropped me off just a little bit ago. Thought I could visit one more time before school started.
Sorry.
You picked a busy time. Sorry. Derek couldn't even look at Cove. He nervously kept rolling a pebble with the bottom of his shoe.
Sorry.
I wasn't even thinking that your mom would be leaving today. I'm sorry, dude. What? You're not interrupting anything. You're always welcome here. It would have been sad that I didn't get to say goodbye before leaving. Derek came to hang out often, so it was inevitable that the two had met at some point this season. I think so too. It was apparent Derek would have preferred to have gone there at a more opportune moment. He never liked seeming impolite, but their reassuring words soothed his worries. The tension he was holding in his body lessened, and he looked like he was feeling much more like himself. Bye, Derek. It was fun getting to know you. Bye, ma'am. Is there anything I can do to help? Nah, don't worry yourself over that. We're just about set. In the short amount of time, Cliff had gathered and packed the bags into the trunk, and Kyra took one last look at everyone inside. All right, I don't want to keep the driver waiting. It's time to head out. The little crowd that formed around started their chorus of farewells and well wishes traveling, but Kyra still made no move to get into a taxi. Still placed her attention to Cove. I'll call when I get to the airport and when I make it to Nevada. Also, you better call the moment you walk in the door at home. Otherwise, we'll be wondering all night if you got into trouble on the way there.
Can do.
I can do that. And could you call tomorrow too, so I could tell you how school went? Of course, I want to hear all about it. Kyra put a hand on Cove's head and affectionately ruffled his hair one last time. She then let go, only to move it into squeezing his cheeks in her hands instead. Mom!
Cove.
I love you so much, baby. She was chuckling by the time she freed him and rounded things off with a small tap on the tip of his nose. Cove rubbed his face with a grin. Finally, she walked into the car while waving and took her seat in the taxi. Cliff hooked an arm around Cove's shoulder and kept him close as he began to pull away. For a moment, Cove looked up at his dad, then wrapped his arm across his back.
Bye.
Bye, Mom. Bye. Travel safe. Kyra rolled down the window and stuck her head out of it. She waved again while blowing kisses at Cove and Cliff. See you again. Before she was out of sight, you decided to... You know what? Why not? Go all out. You added your voice to the others to watch Kyra's smile grow larger. The cab turned down another road and completely disappeared from view. Cove let go of his dad and took a few steps out into the empty street, still looking in the direction his mom went. He smiled quietly, deep in thought. You got the impression Cove was feeling better than he was earlier. He was finally content with the way things were. You jumped a bit when your mom put a hand on your shoulder, pulling you away from your thoughts. She smiled when you looked at her. This was a great vacation, huh? Summer isn't over until the second I fall asleep. Yeah. That's what I was hoping to hear. Cove walked back over to the group, still genuinely happy. Derek grinned at him welcomingly, and everyone else there smiled at him, even Elizabeth.
Well?
Ma clapped her hands together, bringing everyone's attention back to the present. It's almost lunchtime. I think I'll put something special together. Her eyes sparkled with a plan, and Mom smiled. I bet you could use some help with that. That'd be absolutely wonderful. Derek glanced between the two, his eyebrows furrowed. Is there something I could do? The moms exchanged a fond expression. Ma shook her head.
How sweet.
That's very sweet, Derek, but it's alright. It's not your job. Technically, your dad left you under Cliff's watch. You're meant to be taken care of by him, not doing chores for the neighbors. Mom laughed a little over her own joke. You watched Derek look away, discouraged.
It's okay.
Oh, my bad.
It's okay.
It's okay. I don't mind. He was a little bashful about it. You wondered if Mom's joke had just reminded him that he wasn't initially meant to be invited to lunch. It was getting a little awkward. Mom grinned sympathetically. Her comment was meant to lighten the mood, not bring it back down. Ma tried again to get things moving forward. Why don't you kids go have fun? You all can come back in about an hour. We'll make enough for everyone. Mom nodded in agreement.
Sounds good.
Another stunning idea, Lonnie. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That sounds like a plan then. I don't want to cramp your style. I've got some stuff to work on, so I can be out of your hair this afternoon. You should come by later too. No reason you should be the odd man out. Mom seemed amused as Cliff rubbed his neck nervously. He grinned a wavering but pleased smile.
Thanks very much.
I appreciate the invite. He looked over the assembled crowd, with knowing glances. I can help too. With as many people as you're feeding, that's going to be a lot of food. Didn't you hear what we told Derek? It wouldn't be fair to make you cook when we're the ones who are inviting you. Mom raised an eyebrow when Cliff waved it off.
Come on.
I insist. Derek would be missing time with his pals, but this would be a break for me. I'm quite the chef. Mom exchanged further glances before Mom shrugged.
True.
An airtight argument. If you're sure, we'll be happy to have you, Chef Cliff. Cliff's grin widened and seemed more hyped than you'd expect him to be about helping with lunch. Cove shook his head, a fond smile on his face. Then all us grown-up people will be heading inside. I assume the rest of you kiddos are staying out? Maybe not all of them. Ma tilted her head, a silent question for Elizabeth. Your sister thought for a moment.
Alright.
I'll stay with the kids.
That's fantastic.
That's great. Both their moms smiled at her while Derek and Cove didn't seem to appreciate her phrasing. But the plan was decided. All three parents waved and headed for your house. It was just you teenagers now. Elizabeth looked at you and the others with a curious expression on her face. So, what now? You silently wondered if Elizabeth only stayed out with you to avoid getting roped into work. Then again, she could just genuinely want to hang out. You couldn't tell with your sister. Cole spoke up after no one else did to answer Elizabeth's question. Want to go down to the shopping street? It's been a while, and I don't think there's a lot of other things we could agree on. Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
Sounds awesome to me. Unlike you guys, haven't been there 1,001 times. It's new to me. Let's do it. You strolled across the road as a group, down to the beach and then to the left. It took less than 15 minutes to arrive, one of the conveniences of a Sunset Bird. The four of you looked around the familiar shops, trying to see if anything caught your attention this time. Derek was most enthusiastic. He checked out every stall with his eyes wide in wonder. Elizabeth and Cove were in good spirits as well. That's so cool! He ran over to the street magician who was currently doing a card trick for a group of enchanted tourists. Derek clapped when the magician showed a middle-aged man his card. Derek turned back to the group with a curious gleam on his face. What does it take to perform here anyway? Do you have to ask somebody, or do you just show up and start doing stuff? Who would you even ask? It's a public street. Hey, Miss Mayor, can I pull a rabbit out of my hat? Please, Flopsy is well behaved, I promise. Derek chuckled, his eyes searching up and down the scene. Maybe there's a boss of this shopping street? No one does any of this around my neighborhood. It's just regular stores behind walls. It's different if someone wants a real store, but here I'm pretty sure people are just putting on their little shows whenever they want to do whatever and do whatever. That's so neat. Would we be allowed to do something too? Cove laughed and Derek began almost vibrating with excitement. Elizabeth rolled her eyes. What would we do? Well, I don't know what. Not yet. I mean, I just found out it's a possibility, you know?
But
There's gotta be something. We know cool stuff. I'm sure if we think about it, we could plan a show that would really get a crowd pumped. You felt he could try this idea on his own. You felt like it was a great idea. You thought Derek needed to abandon the bad idea stat. You gave a look to the other two. You thought it was a great idea and wanted to be a part of it. I'm in. Woo!
nice.
I knew I could count on you. Now we just need the act. It'll come to us. Right. With the amusement, the gang continued to peruse the stalls. Elizabeth found some earrings with a dangling, badly misprinted globe that everyone laughed at. Cove picked out a blob as Iceland, but Derek thought it had to be Greenland. This is a world with what looks like 9 continents. I think you're both wrong. No, it's Australia. You stayed out of it. No way, it's Australia. The other 3 giggled at your interjection. Suddenly, Cove froze. You stared at him and then tried to see what caught his attention. When you saw a familiar face down the way, it all made sense. Between the crowds, his bright hair stood out like a neon green bowl in the kitchen sink. It was Jeremy. Jeremy slowly drifted his eyes down the street, and his eyes widened in mutual recognition. He definitely noticed you. Derek frowned and Cove sighed. Neither of them were happy to see him again. You glared at Jeremy, you waved at Jeremy, you decided to smile at Jeremy, you looked away. Jeremy was kind of a jerk, so you didn't even want to start with Jeremy's shenanigans today. Elizabeth raised an eyebrow. Her gaze swept over Jeremy without a hint of a clue. Jeremy simply scoffed to himself and waded deeper into the crowd of people. Derek relaxed and exhaled loudly. I'm glad he's not going to start anything. He peeked over at Elizabeth with a tiny smirk. See, that was the mean kid.
What?
Huh? She still didn't get it. The first summer day hadn't made clear nearly as much of an impression on her as it did for Derek, but he smiled and waved it off. Just forget about him. I already have. He laughed, and Cove smiled lately. He seemed in a much better mood now that Jeremy was gone. Your eyes wandered over to where Jeremy disappeared. You hadn't forgotten the day you met him either. He was only going to be in town for a vacation with the parents he hated. That glimpse was probably the last time you would ever see him. You mentioned the realization, everyone. You kept the thought to yourself. Might as well give it to myself. Elizabeth snapped her fingers in front of your face. Apparently you had spaced out. Cove and Derek were already at the next stall. Come on, unless you wanted to get left here. You nodded and caught up with the others. Cove raised an eyebrow. What were you thinking about? Nothing. He gave you a searching look, but let it drop when Derek yelled at you to go check something out. You couldn't help but wonder, though, what would have happened if you would have interacted with Jeremy more? There'll probably be like some DLC about that, right? You were glad you wouldn't find out. Jeremy was unlike anyone you've ever met before. You thought he was horrible, weird, stupid, pitiful, kind of okay. You didn't know what to think about him. Let's just say we didn't know. You and the group moved from stall to stall and from Jeremy. It didn't take long for everyone to turn to joking. You all enjoyed what little time you had left as Elizabeth mentioned the hour was almost up. The little trip had flown by, and lunch must have been waiting for you now. Derek bounced on the balls of his feet.
Okay.
Come on, guys, let's get going so we can eat. I'm starving. Homebound, here we go. Cove stretched one of his arms lazily. Let's go then. You looked at him appraisingly. You asked Cove to carry you back to the house. Hey, Cove? Yeah? Could you carry me back home?
What?
What? Cove turned red, obviously flustered. You explained you wanted a piggyback ride. You didn't want to walk back. You told him it was a special occasion. You just had to let it go. It's a special occasion. I think that special transportation makes sense for such a big day. Cove sighed and shook his head. Elizabeth and Derek became a chorus of laughter. Come on, Cove, it'll be fun! Alright. Cove stepped over to you. He looked like he couldn't believe that he was doing what he was doing. Your lips quirked into a large smile. Aw, yeah, thanks! He carefully crouched down in front of you so you can climb on. It wasn't hard to hop on. He slipped his arms under your legs and did his best to lift you. It was wobbly, but he managed to stand up all the way up. Elizabeth watched with a smirk on her face while Derek laughed even harder. It was fair to say that your antics were entertaining. You were glad Cove went with it. Cove carried you home, but you seemed pretty bashful about the situation. He seemed pretty bashful about the situation. I can't read. He struggled with how much to grip around you and whether or not he should try to reposition things. But along with all that, he also seemed to feel some pride to be carrying you. It was a pleasant walk home, and in no time you had made it back. Derek got at the front door and held it open for everyone as each of you moseyed inside. The three parents were still in the kitchen. They looked up and waved. Hey! Welcome back, everyone. You made it just in time.
Hi.
I hope you're hungry. When Cove had brought you inside, the parents couldn't help but notice the odd conveyance. Your moms were unsure, and Mr. Holden raised an eyebrow.
Everything okay?
Did you pull something, Richie? I'm okay. Aw, Cove, you've gotten so strong.
Good kid.
And reliable, too. What a guy. Cove rolled his eyes at the commentary, then started walking to your couch. He bent down and let yourself plop back into the couch. Thanks for the lift. Cove exhaled loudly and shook out his arms. He just seemed relieved that you made it. So, did everyone have a nice time out? She gestured for people to take a seat at the table. Plates and silverware had already been placed out. You took your normal seat. Elizabeth sat across from you, and Derek took the seat to your left. Cove sat on your right. But he blushed a little and began fidgeting with his silverware. His dad was the first to pick up on his extra awkwardness, but your moms weren't far behind. The parents shared looks at Cove's reaction. It seemed that he was struggling with how to act normal around his dad and your parents. Or both, after what happened between you two upstairs.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we had a great time. It was fine. I had fun. Yeah, the bank heist went off without a hitch. I really liked it. That's good in my book. Casually, Mr. Holden sat in an empty seat across from Cove. He smiled at you and all the other kids. Mom set down a platter full of water glasses on the table, and she looked down at the gathering. It's a good thing that we have 8 chairs. I can't remember the last time we've had a group this big over for a meal. Can you pass the drinks down the other side? Make sure you all got one. Sure. Those close to the cups obligated obliged and started offering waters around. As you passed Cove his drink, your hands touched. Cove froze. He had already let go, not yet realizing that he was too distracted to function in the moment. The glass fell down the table, landing with a sharp clatter of glass on the wood. Cove scooted his chair back with a restrained shout.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I'll just I'll just get a towel or something. He looked around with a frantic panic, as if an object to soak up the water would magically appear as if he turned his head fast enough. But his dad bit his lip in worry, rising from his own seat.
Well...
Cove, what's going on? You've been a little out of it today. Did something happen? Cove tensed, frozen again. He stared at the water at the tabletop as if wanted to sink into it. You spoke up to cover Cove. You blanked on anything that you said. You admitted what happened between you two. That they had to find out sometime. You accidentally blurted it out. You know what? Let's just cover for him. Yeah, if something did happen, you should wait for Cove to want to talk about it. Trying to make him say it in front of everybody wouldn't be good. Mr. Holden nodded slowly. He still seemed worried, but after another look at Cove, he smiled sympathetically.
Right.
Well said, Richie. I'm here when you're ready, son.
Of course.
Cove breathed a sigh of relief and shot you an apologetic look. You shot him a covert thumbs up. As everything got set up, Ma chided Elizabeth to take her elbows off the table.
Now.
And you shouldn't slouch. She pointed to Mr. Holden, who was leaning forward with both his arms on the table. Oops. Mr. Holden seemed unsure about all the sudden attention and carefully rearranged his posture to something suitable for a fancy dinner. He smiled sheepishly at Ma. Elizabeth rolled her eyes, and Ma gave a level look at her. You shouldn't be impolite to a guest in the house either. Elizabeth groaned, long suffering. Ma giggled and Mr. Holden chuckled.
Not bad.
A lot of you could learn a thing or two from Derek. He has the best manners here. Derek blushed, but it was true. His posture was upright and formal. He even held his fork gracefully. His table manners, on top of all of his attempts to aid your parents, made him the model of meal attendee behavior.
Aw.
It's nothing. It's true though. You've been a lovely guest. I've noticed that too. It's always nice when you stay over, Derek. Derek smiled and sat a little taller in his chair. And do you have anything good to say about your other guest? She looked deliberately at Cove with a teasing smirk. Or is there just nothing to say? Well, Cove is my number one, but he's still clean. But he does still clean his hands by wiping them on his pants. Cove frowned at that and absentmindedly brushed his hands on his pant legs. Your mom's laughed lightly.
There.
Elizabeth, you should know, after all these years, Cove is hardly a guest anymore. Cove smiled awkwardly. Thanks. Manners. Who cares? I don't think it's a big deal. You teased Cove for his bad habit. You complimented Derek for his politeness. You know that Derek was basically an adult. You kept quiet and took a bite of your food. You joked that Derek is basically an adult. Next time, Derek is really going to stay inside and cook. He's practically a mini adult. If he's joining us grown-ups, then you're going to have to treat him like one. Okay, so Mr. Suarez, how go your taxes? Derek shook his head and chuckled. Everyone ate their meal together and continued to hang out for the afternoon. After the food, you and the others played a couple of games and talked about plans for your coming year. The time passed by quickly, and soon it was time for you to part ways. Mr. Holden talked to your moms, and Cove drifted over to you, knowing that as soon as his dad finished up, he would be leaving. It'd be cool to stay, but we have some stuff to do before everything closes today.
Okay.
Yeah, bye. Could you move? I need the phone. Cove raised an eyebrow, and Elizabeth impatiently gestured behind him. Cove realized he was standing right in front of where the receiver was placed. He sidestepped out of the way and shook his head, clearly thinking Elizabeth was rushing too much. Your sister made the beeline for the phone and started dialing the number of what you figured was one of her friends, knowing Elizabeth she was going to be there for a while. You, Cove, and Derek shuffled closer to the door. It seemed like Mr. Holden was wrapping up his conversation, so everyone started saying their various farewells.
Talk to you later.
See you later, Cove. We gotta do this again sometime. Yeah, see you. Cove turned to you and smiled slightly. Bye, Richie. Ruffled his hair, nudged Cove's shoulder, patted him on the back, hugged Cove goodbye. You know, come on, why wouldn't we hug him? Come on, come here, buddy. You step forward and spread your arms wide, and Cove only had a moment to react before you can circle him in your arms. Cove hugged you back tightly, his chest rumbled as he laughed. His cheeks were slightly red, especially when he looked over and noticed that Derek had watched the whole thing. Derek smiled amusedly.
Dude.
Seriously, dude, we'll have to hang out later. I'm gonna miss you during school. He offered Cove a high five, and the two boys clapped their hands together. Cove and his dad left soon after that. Your parents started cleaning up the house, and Elizabeth was still chatting with her friend on the phone. It was just you and Derek left. He elected to stay outside in front of your house to wait for his dad to pick him up. You decided to keep your guest company, although he was originally Cove's visitor. A late summer breeze blew through your hair, and Derek shifted his weight from foot to foot. Thanks for waiting with me. He kicked at the ground distractedly.
Well...
Dad's still gonna be a while, so do you want to go for a walk? Sure, I don't mind. The two of you walked down the street again, just wandering without a destination planned. It was a quiet stroll, too quiet for Derek being the company. You turned to him when you noticed that he wasn't saying a word. That was unusual. Derek always had something to say he could chat about. You weren't sure if you should ask Derek about it. Somehow you ended up at the old park near the beach. You glanced over to Derek once more, still expecting him to say something any second now. However, nothing came from him. In fact, you noticed a frown creeping on his face. Derek smiled when he realized you were watching. At least his mouth was turned up. There wasn't anything that really felt happy in his expression. He turned away and the smile fell off his face. His eyes stared intently at the ground and you raised an eyebrow. Is everything okay? I'm a little sad. It's just, with school starting back up again, it's gonna be harder to visit. I'm gonna have homework and clubs, practices, and everything else.
This sucks.
It really sucks we have to go to different schools. His face screwed up, and his fists were closed tightly together. This was really concerning for him. What if we don't have time? Maybe we can... Okay, channel some optimism to the conversation. Why not? We'll make time. We can talk over the phone and have plans for weekends. It'll be okay. Derek looked up at the sky. It was orange and purple with wisps of clouds scattered around. A plane flew high with a jet stream trailing behind it. Then he turned to the ground again. Derek's face was tilted far enough down that it was harder to read his expression. Hey, Richie, I actually wanted to talk to you about something, if you don't mind. Oh, I'm actually kind of scared. What's he going to talk to us about? There was a pause, and you waited for him to finish his thought.
Sorry.
I was just kind of wondering, do you like guys at all? Like, would you ever want to be with someone who was a boy? Sorry if that's weird to ask. I kind of don't want to talk about that. I could be with a guy. Okay, then he hesitated before finishing his question. So, oh, he's blushing. Oh, I'm scared. So, what I mean is, is there any guy you think is kind of cool that you like around here? Not at school or anything like that. He ducked his head further. You already knew the answer. You had confronted that very topic this afternoon. Well, I like Cove. Derek chuckled and didn't look all that surprised. Yeah, I kind of thought so. That's cool. I really hope things work out. Thanks for answering my random questions. He shot you a thumbs up. I hope we'll always be friends, no matter what. Even if we don't see each other for a long time, or if we get really busy, I still hope... He cut himself off and met your eyes. There was something serious to him. There was something serious to him, sincerely worried that you'd fall out of friendship. We're always going to be friends. Derek smiled, mostly to himself. He seemed a little more like the usual. Then for sure, we have to make the most of next year. Then the year after that, and the year after that. He rambled on for a while about things. We'll just make the most of every year. Right. You smiled and felt like your friendship was still strong. You didn't spend much longer at the park after that. Derek didn't to miss his dad, so you both made your way back to your street. After Derek went back home, you decided to settle in for the night. Stretching your arms over your head, you noticed that the living room and the phone were free. You called Lee, you took it easy. You know what, let's call Lee. You picked up the receiver and quickly punched in the familiar number while going to take a seat on the couch. Soon enough, after explaining the situation to the housekeeper, Lee answered.
Hey!
Hey! Hey Lee, can I talk to you? Definitely. We practically have to. My gosh, can you believe it's almost time for school to start? What happened to our summer? School starts tomorrow, first thing tomorrow for me.
Boo.
Ew, and I thought starting next week was bad enough. Enjoy your last week. Oh, I will. I hope you'll survive your first day. Me too. I need a good year. Ditto. And at least summer was nice while it lasted, right? We were busy. Yeah. Finally, you thought about all the best memories you made this summer. Lee was there for some, but there were still many that you hadn't filled her in on yet. Moved on to talk about her. You reminisced about a moment of your summer. You began to speak about... the road trip you took. I went on a vacation. Cove's parents ended up inviting my whole family on our RV road trip.
Really?
Whoa, that's awesome! It was a 3-day trip, and we visited Redwood National Forest. Lucky. Oh. The park was amazing. It was fun to hang out with everyone all together. I really liked riding in the RV for the first time. Co was flirting with me on the trip. I mean, that's not wrong. It is true. I snuck up into the loft where I was staying. Actually, well, technically he didn't. Well, he technically kind of did, but only after we invited him. So, you know what?
What?
Cove did what? He tried to flirt. I was so surprised too. I'm so happy for you. You have to keep me updated on what happens next. It was hard to focus on what she was saying. Your face was probably red right now, just thinking about what happened. Oh, that one day with the big shopping trip in the morning. There was this day that Mom and Ma took me and Elizabeth on a big supply shopping trip. What made that so memorable? Lee chuckled, but you could hear the curiosity in her voice. Oh. I went surfing with Cove. Ooh, that's super cool. It was so fun. The time you went to Cove's house for dinner. Oh, one night, Cove's parents invited me over for dinner at their house for the first time. Mr. Holden made Mexican food. The meal was good. Mexican is yummy, so that's no surprise. What else? I got to name one of Cove's pet fish. What did you pick? Sunbeam. I like how the game remembers. Wow, why doesn't Cove ask me to name one of his fish? He has a bunch, right? That had you bursting into laughter. You almost accidentally dropped the phone. She giggled in return. Okay, last thing. The incredibly hot afternoon. Oh. I remember the hottest day this summer. I could barely do anything and had to stay inside for the entire afternoon. I learned more about my mom's though. My parents acted really embarrassing the whole time. Cove was so hot. At his house, he bummed around at mine all day. We made sandwiches together. Cove said I was cute and, well, he wrote it. He wrote it. Come on, that has to be. We were playing Hangman, that's what he picked for me to figure out. You heard her audibly gasp. That's such a move. What did you do? You filled her in as much as you were willing, and she gratefully took in all the details. Wait. Oh? Someone else. You wanted to focus on your cousin now. What was the big highlight of your summer, Lee? Talking to you is always the best part of my summer. Even though it was a phone call, you just knew that Lee was winking at you. I'm glad you picked the right answer. Come on, tell me. Why, you don't believe me? Lee. Alright, okay, so high point for me was when I took that trip with my parents to Europe. That was amazing. You and Lee continued to go over your adventures until you both were yawning to each other over the phone. You knew word about what happened would get to Lee, but you didn't want to bring it up now. Before you go, there's one other thing. I told Cove I had a crush on him today. There was a pause of silence. Knowing your cousin, you decided to pull your ear away from the phone. As expected, a loud screech, loud enough for you to still make out clearly from a distance, crackled through the speaker. When you felt it was safe, you put the phone back against your head. Lee was still gushing to herself, though a little less loudly. Why didn't you say so sooner? He had to have liked you back, right? You two are the most perfect pair ever. Tell me, please. You used the precious little time you had left to try filling her in as best you're capable in the moment. But soon the approach of curfew became too much for you to ignore, despite how excited you both were. At that, you decided that it was time for you to say goodbye now. You did have school to wake up for in the morning. Bye, Lee.
Bye.
Night, Richie. Talk to you later. You left the phone on the side table for now. Looking at the clock on the wall, you saw that there was only about 10 minutes until your moms would be insisting you had to go to bed, so you could be rested enough for school. You stretched your legs on the couch and sighed in defeat, watching the minute hand change 1 minute closer to bedtime. You rearranged yourself, feeling restless. You looked out the window. Startled initially, you spotted a figure out on the hills. It was Cove. When the surprise faded, you realized it really wasn't that much of a shock at all. It was exactly something Cove would do. You went outside to meet up with him. You ran off to go see him. You smacked the window to get his attention. You opened the window to call out to him. Oh, come on. Why wouldn't we run off to go see him? Sprinting, you reached the front door in record time. You didn't think you'd see Cove again that day. You had to go to him. When you arrived, you noticed how many fireflies were out that night. They were drifting along lazily, barely minding your presence as you waded through to reach the top of the hill. Cove turned towards you as you approached, and you noticed right away that Cove looked happy to see you. Hey, you had a bounce in your step. You weren't sure how long you'd get before your moms roped you back inside for bed. What are you doing out here? Nothing, not really. He shrugged, seeming unhappy with his own answer. You stared at him, waiting for him to continue. Well, I guess I was feeling kind of weird about stuff, so I'm getting some fresh air before bed. You nodded, you shrugged back. I hope you feel better. I feel good. I know how you feel. You really should go to sleep. I know how you feel. It's hard to stay still. Tomorrow's gonna be the start of a new year. At the mention of school, a small noise escaped him. Cove let himself fall back onto his butt, then all the way down, so he was laying on his back. He looked up at the sky. You sat on his chest. You stood there, you sat on the grass. You laid down yourself. You lowered yourself to lay back on the hill. He had been lost in thought or was possibly waiting for you to situate yourself, but you started speaking unprompted again.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry for being kind of awkward when my mom was leaving. Surprised you stared at him a moment. You weren't expecting that. I just wanted you to know that I talked to my dad about how I felt and things. It's okay now. You were genuinely glad to hear that, and it brought a smile to your face, but your thoughts quickly wandered back to the first day you met Mr. Holden. Did his dad confess about that? From the way Cove talked? You guess he hadn't. So there was more. Cove and his dad to talk about, but it was a relief to know that they had made a start. Now was a good time to bring up what you were thinking, though. You could wait no longer to say it. It was almost unbelievable how much of an impact he made on your life just by moving next door. You couldn't even imagine what your days might have looked like in a world where you hadn't met him. Cove glanced back at you, waiting for a response, and you had no idea what to say. Cove just stared at you unblinkingly. What? It's you. Huh? He snickered before answering. He looked thoroughly amused with your reaction. That's what you do all the time, so I'm being you. You did it all the time too, so do you, Cove. I didn't do it that much. Not being able to argue assessment, you accepted it. You felt bashful about his joke. You were starting to notice enough he'd take note of it. There was no response you can give, but you noticed Cove smiling softly at you. He wasn't trying to be mean with it. Honestly, there weren't many people you could think of who could tease you about something like that. Returning a smile, you realized there was no denying that the two of you had been around each other for a long time. Cove broke the quiet before it could fully settle.
See you tomorrow.
Hey, I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, see you then. With final wave, Cove headed home, but you stayed there a few minutes longer. Your mind kept going back to his simple statement, see you tomorrow. No matter how much he was changing around you, there were some things in your life that always remained true. The hills felt warm to you that night. Before you knew it, you were getting comfortable under the covers in your room. Your mind couldn't help but still be buzzing with the thoughts about the future. It was hard not to think about Cove, but there hadn't been enough time to really figure it all out after what happened between you two. You felt excited. Excited, why not? There was little doubt in your mind that things were moving forward, and you couldn't wait to find out what changes were waiting for you on the horizon. Slowly, your eyes grew heavy as you drifted off to sleep, your mind spinning with wistful thoughts. No matter what happened next, you could only hope that you would make the most of it. You were ensnared in a dream when a noise from the outside world jostled you. Noises happened, you just tried to forget it. You suddenly kept your eyes pressed shut. You snapped open. You know what? What is it? The light clatter continued. Now you were more alert. You could distinguish it as a tapping sound, quiet, slow, but persistent. Each beat was like being poked. You couldn't ignore it. You lifted your head from the pillow to look out for the source. Not much work was needed to puzzle it out. It was from the window. With that, you knew exactly what it was. From the color of the light filtering into your room, it was too early for anyone to be awake, including the sun. It had barely hauled itself over the horizon, but that didn't stop some people. It seemed. You sat up in bed, opened the window wide. Cool air, not yet warmed by the day, tickled your face as it pushed into your room. And just as you expected, there was your neighbor crouching near your windowsill. He was fully dressed, though not for school. Oh? He was wearing a wetsuit and shy smile. Hi, Richie. You stared back, blinking. So technically we won't be back in school for a few more hours. His voice was delicate yet deliberate, each word with a careful explanation. Classes haven't actually started yet, so do you want to hit the beach with me one more time this summer? Here we go again. It's way too early, Cove. You're crazy. Cove, you're so cute. You give a decisive nod always. Cove, you're so cute. His smile widened affectionately. You rushed to get changed into something suitable while Cove climbed back down to ground level. Your limbs, still half asleep, struggled somewhat as you attempted to coordinate them into a swimsuit, but you got there in the end. Soon you were tiptoeing out of your front door, clutching a towel. Cove was already there to greet you. Your eyes met. Cove's gaze darted to your destination and back to you. You checked the door was closed, gave a thumbs up, and the two of you leapt into action. Wordlessly, you began to run down the familiar path ahead, Cove beside you. The thrill of your illicit outing made you want to laugh. Not that you dared. If anyone in your family looked out and saw you then, your summer would be back to being over. One glance at Cove told you that he was exactly the same, holding back snickers for fear of being heard and caught. The towel streamed out from under your arm like a cape. You were running so fast downhill that simply keeping your balance and not tumbling down was a real threat. It just wasn't enough of one of you to slow your pace. For every step you took, the beach was a little closer and the day a little brighter. What lay ahead for you would arrive, and you were happy to meet it. In between. Okay, we made it to another in between section. Oh, so we can change our looks now. Okay. Wow. So I think that's gonna do it for this episode for now. I've been recording for an hour and 16 minutes already, so yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Be sure to leave a like, comment what you think, share this video with your friends, and be sure to subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss a single notification. I'll see all of you in the next video. Goodbye!
You say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a